Well, the first week in the new trailer has been completed, so I'm going to let you guys know how I feel about it and what's going on, what kind of issues I've run into, things I love, things I don't love. So if that sounds awesome to you, stick around. Welcome to the Sprout Post. First week in the trailer has been pretty awesome. These guys have been pretty good, adjusted well. Got Athena over here. Yeah, there's my big puppy. And we got Aries right here. I was a bit worried about this one because he's very energetic, very hyper. There really isn't much room in the trailer here for him to run around. So we play tug of war a lot. That seems to help him out, huh, buddy? Seems to help him out pretty well. So anyways, the first week has been pretty awesome. Like I said, first night, it was really cold. It was 4 degrees. And I kind of ran into the issue of, do I just run the furnace all night? I did buy a space heater, which actually worked out really well. It does a pretty good job at keeping up with the cold. I would have to turn the furnace up, get it warmer in here, and then let it kind of slowly cool off as the space heater sort of kept up. I know I just said it keeps up, but it does it pretty well. I could go about 3 hours before I'd have to turn the furnace on to kind of bring the general temperature up. But other than that, it's done really well. These two stayed pretty warm. Athena likes to be under the blankets, so I have a little nest I've made for her back here, and just cover her up in some blankets, and she passes right out, snores right along. And Aries, he's got pretty thick hair. I mean, he's just shedding already, and he just laid on the end of the bed here closest to where the space heater was, so nobody's had any issues with the cold. The first night, though, I slept with a hoodie on, and I have 2 blankets on the bed right now. So, but nobody got cold, and it was not uncomfortable at all in here. I was pretty happy. I was worried it was going to get really cold. One weird thing is on the floor here, there are 2 vents for the furnace, and those 2 vents are pointing straight up right at the thermostat for the furnace. So you turn the thermostat up, the heat would start blowing, and then it would heat up the internal thermometer on the thermostat. The thermostat would think that it was 70 degrees in here already when it really wasn't. So it kept going into this cycle where it would run for 5 minutes, heat up the thermostat, turn off, and then about a minute and a half later, once that cool air kind of mixed back in and cooled off the thermostat, it would kick back on. So it was just on and off and on and off. And I found that when I go to bed at night, to keep it from constantly running, I would just put the space heater pointing into the bedroom, but kind of angled a little bit towards the thermostat, so the thermostat didn't keep kicking on the furnace. And then I would just leave the thermostat at 60, and if it got to the point where I needed to turn it up, I would just get up, turn it up to 70, let it run for a little while, and then turn it back down to 60. And like I said, I'd get about 3.5 hours before I had to worry about that. And that was only on the first night. The rest of the time was actually pretty nice. As a consequence of doing that, though, one night I had turned it a little bit too close to the thermostat, and the space heater heated up the internal thermometer to probably 80-85 degrees. So I got up to turn on the thermostat, or turn on the furnace, and it didn't kick on. Oh no, I've killed the furnace already. But I turned off the space heater for a little bit, let the cool air kind of kick on, or take over, and it cooled off the thermostat, and finally it kicked on, and I was able to get things going. So that was a little bit scary for a few minutes. Thought that my new trailer's furnace was broken during a really cold week. But the next thing that was pretty nice about the temperature inside here was the second day the sun came out. It wasn't all dreary and rainy and dark outside, so it wasn't as cold, and the sunlight through the windows actually heated up the inside to about 75 degrees. I ended up opening one of the windows and the skylight up here to vent some of that heat out, because it was getting pretty warm in here. So that's a bonus, but I feel like might kind of suck when I get out west. I'll worry about that problem when I get there, but I'm definitely gonna have to figure out the best way to make things vent in here, because I get out west where, especially during the summer, it could easily get 100 degrees or so in here, and me and the dogs are not going to be happy about that, especially Aries. He's, like I said, got thick hair. He's like me, it gets about 75 and we both start sweating and thinking that we need to find an ice pond to jump into. Oh, buddy. So speaking of the windows, I found out a couple days in that the screens, they're like this weird clip-on screen, and they don't fit real well. The screens are actually slightly too big. So when you clip them in, they kind of bow out a little bit, leaving this little gap along the edge of the window. And it's almost like not having a screen at all, because bugs of any shape and size could crawl right through that hole, through that gap. So I'm going to find some like some Gorilla tape or some kind of weather seal tape, just tape along the seams, cover that up, because I don't want bugs in here. Bugs are bad, and when you get out into the middle of nowhere, bugs are everywhere. So we don't need bugs. No biting bugs, no bloodsuckers, none of that stuff. No fun. So I'll get that fixed, but I was a bit bummed to find that out, that there was screen gaps on pretty much every screen in here, except for these two windows here. I know you can't see them off the frame, but they're like a sliding window, so the window slides shut and covers. So the screen is actually a part of the window. It's not something that just pops right out. So for the next thing, would be cooking in here. I knew the stovetop would work pretty well. It's just a propane flame. Put a pan over it and cook whatever you're going to cook. The oven I did have some issues with. But first, the only issue I did have with the stovetop and frying things was that there's a little flap on the outside of the RV that you have to open up, so that the hood fan will actually vent things. So I was cooking a few bratwursts in a pan, and my little smoke alarm started going off, and I fanned it away and figured, maybe I just figured it wasn't venting real well. I mean, I'm not expecting everything to work as amazingly as it does in a house. So I just fanned the smoke away and finished cooking everything. Well, the next night I was frying some stuff up again, and it did it again, and I was trying to figure out what is going on. And the next morning, I was walking outside to check something, and I looked up and realized, oh yeah, I did see a video. I do remember somebody talking about opening this little hood vent flap. So I opened that up, and I haven't had any issues with it since. So if you're new to RVing, make sure you open that flap before you start cooking, or your hood fan vent thing isn't going to work real well. As for the oven, the first night I decided to use it, I was cooking one of those family baked ziti things, like a lasagna but baked ziti, and I think it called for 375 for 70 minutes. So I turned the little dial to 375, put the baked ziti in there, and 70 minutes later, it was still frozen in the middle, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And I got a pizza stone, so I got the pizza stone in there so that the heat and everything was even. Come to find out later, after I had just turned up the heat and finished getting it cooked, I found out that being that you're in an RV, there's not as good insulation on the walls. The oven itself is smaller, so its insulation isn't as good as it would be in a house oven. The cold air outside, like I said, it was like overnight it would get down into 20. It was below freezing for the first 4 or 5 days of me staying in here. So that cold air, the oven basically couldn't keep up with the cold air that was outside. So everything that I bake right now, I have to look at what the temperature is and turn the oven's temperature up a little bit to compensate for it. I did end up cooking a pizza a few nights ago, and I just started off with about 30 degrees higher. It still needed to be a little bit higher, but I believe it was 45 that day, so it wasn't as bad. But definitely an adjustment using the oven. So for the next thing that I've learned is, right now I don't have a 30 amp plug, so I'm running the whole trailer off of an extension cord and a little adapter for a 15 amp extension cord to the 30 amp extension, or the 30 amp plug that's on the surge protector, and then of course the trailer plug is plugged into the surge protector. So everything works fine, but I have to be careful what I run. What I've been doing is, I haven't tripped the breaker once, but I basically make sure that I'm not running a bunch of stuff at once. Luckily I can run the furnace and the space heater and my computer all at the same time without any issues. And then of course the refrigerator is also electric, and that's kicked on a few times with all 4 of them running at once, and I haven't tripped any breakers. But generally I try and keep everything low key. You know, if I'm running the furnace, if I'm running space heater, I don't plug anything else in. You know, I don't run like, I don't charge a bunch of devices or do any of that kind of stuff. So I just unplug everything that I'm not using, which is good, because when you get solar, you don't want to have things plugged in if you're not using it anyways. So that's all worked out really well. And then the other side of the energy is the propane. And really the propane is pretty easy to manage because it's the stove and the furnace. My fridge is all electric. It doesn't have the whole electric propane switch to it. It's just 100% electric. So the only time I'm using propane is with the furnace. And I wasn't sure how much the furnace was going to use. I mean, it was pretty cold, so I was running the furnace every 2-3 hours for about 10-15 minutes at a time. And I was a bit worried I was going to run out of propane in like 3 or 4 days. And I'm filming this at 13 days in the trailer now, almost 2 weeks, and the first propane tank is still going. It hasn't switched over to the second propane tank. The nice thing about that is when on most RVs these days they have a little regulator switch, and I think it's called a regulator switch. I'm no Hank Hill when it comes to that stuff, but you got 2 tanks and there's a little switch, and it'll have, you know, tank 1, and when that one goes empty, it loses pressure, and then a little switch will flip over to the other tank automatically. So every day I walk the dogs 2 or 3 times a day, and I'll go out there when I'm walking them and check, and so far it's still on the first tank. So I'm pretty excited about that. I was worried I was going to go through a ton of propane. Other than that, I mean, like I said, I just make sure I'm not plugging in a ton of stuff. I don't charge my iPad and iPhone and, game systems or anything like that all at the same time while I'm running the heaters. I don't need all those things at the same time anyway, so I can charge up my phone and then charge up my iPad, and everything works out pretty well that way. So managing things on a 15 amp extension cord has been a lot easier than I thought it would be. I half expected to blow the breaker once a day, but haven't done it once yet, so that's good. Now the one thing that I can't quite test yet is water. Sitting where I am right now, I could fill up the water. It hasn't, at least the last few days, it has stayed above freezing. I don't think it's gotten below 42 degrees. But I do believe there's a few more nights coming where it's going to freeze, so I don't want any water in the lines. So as for right now, I'm not using any of the plumbing in the trailer. All of the tanks are empty. There's no water in the lines. It's still got that pink antifreeze stuff that they put in there to winterize it. So I've basically, I'm parked at my mother-in-law's house, and I just go in there, take a shower, do my laundry, do my dishes, use the bathroom, which it works out. It's a little bit annoying to run in there to go to the bathroom, but it works out well. So until the weather gets a little better and I'm able to actually fill the tanks up, I'm not going to be able to test the water. So I've been using just buying drinking water. Their house actually has well water, and they have like a water softener and everything, so it's safe to drink. The puppies don't seem to mind it, but I can't do it. I tried because water isn't expensive to buy, but it's also an expense that I don't have to, since there's drinkable water right here. But yeah, I tried getting past it, and just that flavor. It might be okay in like lemonade or something, but still, I tried. I really did. I know I'm a spoiled city boy all of a sudden, but so I've gone through, I'd have to say, about 8 gallons of water which isn't too bad considering, you know, today is almost 2 weeks. So 8 gallons, 9 gallons of water, it's not too bad. And I pretty much just use the water for drinking and my tea, so drinking again. I've made a couple of like little cups of noodles, but I haven't really had to use the water for much cooking. Outside of like something like a cup of noodles, cooking with water is actually very, very wasteful as far as your water goes. You know, you boil a bunch of pasta, you can't drink that water. I mean, I guess you could, but ugh, that'd be worse than the well water. You can't just reuse it for something, so you just dump all that out. So I have been planning all my meals to be more, you know, just regular heat and pans kind of cooking. So I haven't cooked anything really with water, so that helps as well. The dogs, they go through about 3 gallons every couple of days. So we're doing pretty good on the water as well, but I can't wait to get this tested out with the actual water system. So really that's about it. I mean, it's a trailer, you know, it's smaller space, but just me and the dogs. I really enjoy it. Sitting at the little dinette and working on things hasn't been too hard. The dinette seats aren't the most comfortable. This bed mattress right now is, oh, my back actually, I woke up yesterday and this morning, my back is killing me. And I don't know if it's because I'm just sleeping weird to try and compensate for the bed. It's a little bit shorter too. My feet hang off the edge of the bed, so I'm always kind of trying to lay one way or the other. And then I got these guys hogging up half the bed with me. Bed hogs. Oh, bed hogs. Yeah, you're a bed hog. You're both bed hogs. So the lighting in here is really great. I've got the 2 lights on in the bedroom just for, you know, filming, but most of the time I only have 1 light on in here and then 1 light on the other end, and it keeps the whole place really well lit. And then when it's nice and bright outside, obviously I just open up the windows and there's plenty of light coming in. I don't have to have any of the lights on until it's actually dark outside. Now I do have a couple of small complaints. Besides, like, you know, the window screens having a gap. This right here, first night, I don't know if you can quite tell, my head, I went to sit back and I smacked my head on that thing, and oh, that didn't feel so good. But because of that, when I'm laying down, it's right above my head. There's not a lot of room. I went to, you know, roll over with my blanket, and I've smacked this a few times. I've smacked this side over here a few times. And then this light, oh, the light is really bright and in your face. But like I said, small nitpicks. And then getting organized is another thing. I'm going to actually do all the organization stuff in the next video, but I have all my boxes just kind of stacked up off to the side. You can kind of see one of the little bins and stuff over here. And, you know, the closets are, you either hang stuff up, which I'm not a fan of. I've never really cared to hang stuff up. I'd rather just fold it. It feels like a waste of space when you have, you know, 10 shirts this way when you could have 10 shirts that way. But, so I have a couple of solutions for all of this. And like I said, that'll be in the next video. But as for now, that's going to do it, guys and gals. I keep doing that. I promise I'm working on it. My fellow lovely humans. So I'll catch you guys next time on the Let's Get Organized. So until next time, everyone, take it easy. See ya. Cena, wave. Wave bye. Say babe, say bye. Say bye. Speak. Or speak. Let's get puppies.